be more steady. Yeah.
That is much improved.
That way people aren't listening.
Are you recording your dance?
Yeah.
Good. That's very nice.
I'll make sure to add that part. I won't edit it out. All right. Well.
Yeah, we got
Is
to move over.
that bike?
I'm tall
Okay,
enough.
yeah.
It's,
I was just
And
shuffling us.
I got
All
a
right. Right in front of
preview
you.
of this earlier today. So.
All right. So, welcome to the first Pride Rides Bikepacking 101.
Woo!
I don't know, the bikepacking part didn't show up, but it did say bikepacking on the top originally.
With Pride Rides.
Danielle can attest to that. It does say that. But it is with Pride Rides. So this is the first in a sort of a series of events that we'll do, culminating in the end of year bikepacking trip, end of summer, not end of year, not like winter time. September, the first week of September, we'll do a couple nights out in Grand State Forest, and we'll leave from here at the shop and bike out there. There'll be an option to also, if folks don't feel comfortable leaving from here, because there is some road traffic on the way. The back half of the ride is all rail trail, so off of the road. So there'll be an option to park at Plainfield Park and Ride and go from there, which is entirely rail trail. And so the purpose of this piece is just to kind of give everyone an intro into bikepacking and go over the basics and just kind of give you the tools that you'll need for that maybe first or beginner level bikepacking. So, what is bikepacking? Bikepacking is a mixture of different types of biking, camping, and exploring. I love bikepacking because it's a little bit slower paced, and that's kind of my preferred biking. I like to be able to look around and see what's going on around me and be like, where does that trail go? Or stop and look at that nice pond, or take binoculars and look at the birds and all that stuff. And I've always loved camping since I was really young, and so when I started biking, I got really excited to kind of mix them all together. So that's bikepacking. And there are a million ways you can do it, right? There's like people that tour whole continents for months at a time. And then there are people that do just what they call a sub 24 overnight, where you just go out and find a cool spot to camp and then come back the next day. So there's really no wrong way to do it. And so I like to say, go far, go slow. Just go as far as you want and go as slow as you want and just hang out. Take a picnic in the middle. It's really great. I love how flexible it is. And so along with that, you can, depending on where you stay or how long you're going, you can carry a lot of stuff on your bike or just a few things. And you can carry just a backpack, or you can carry a myriad of bags, and you'll see those as we all present them later, all the different types of things you can carry in order to get you and your stuff from here to there. And then also it can be on any type of road or in the middle of the woods in a trail. So you can be on pavement or gravel or a mixture of all three, depending on the route you choose and the style you want to do. And so that sort of takes us into choosing your route and your destination. You want to choose what kind of riding you want to be on, what surface you want to be on. So if you want to just do a pavement ride, or if you want to mix in a little bit of gravel, or if you want to get away from cars and do it entirely on trail, like in the woods or on the rail trail. So you could do like mountain biking, bikepacking, or road biking. Touring is usually, I think traditionally what they would call it. Usually I like to build my routes around a point of interest, something I want to go see, or a particular place I'd really like to ride in. If I'm like, this is going to be really beautiful, I will choose that place and try to design a route around that. And then you can, when you're creating the route, you can consider if you want it to be flat, or if you don't mind some hills, or going over some really technical terrain or bumpy terrain, or and all of that is sort of when you're considering what kind of bike you're going to take too. You can consider that what your bike can handle or what comfort level you want to handle on your bike. And then, of course, here in Vermont, you have 4 seasons to choose from. So you can choose to go summer, spring, winter. Here in Vermont, you can camp at most state parks, fun fact, in the winter for free. You just show up and hang out, find a lean-to, and there you are. But you do have to trudge through the snow to get there. So it's a next level adventure. But those are some options. And then another great thing is you can choose a predetermined route or create your own. So mostly I've created my own with some influence from other routes that I've seen other people make, but there is a whole chapter of Vermont Mountain Bike Association called Vermont Bikepackers, and they create routes all the time, and Danielle has created routes for them, and so you can go onto their website and find these predetermined routes, and they usually have all of that information, what type of roads, areas of interest, where you can camp, all sorts of stuff. And so that's a good option. And then, of course, you want to pick your destination, where you want to camp, either in like a state park. You can do tents, lean-tos, cabins, or a private campground, something like that. Or you can do backcountry or dispersed camping. There's a lot of places in Vermont where you can just go, and you can find this on like the Vermont state websites, where you can just camp, pull up to the side of the road, get in the woods a little ways, and outside of sensitive areas, you can camp within their guidelines. There's some different rules, but that is available. And then, of course, you can do credit card camping, where you stay at a cottage or a motel. Those are options too, and just as fun. When we with the shop, we haven't been able to go over the last couple of years because of COVID, but we did Puerto Rico trips, and we had like a satellite bike packing situation where we stayed at a really nice spot and then went on day rides from there, and that was really great. And so I like loosely put all those within bike packing. And so when you're creating your routes, there are 2 basic mapping technologies that I use. So just with different apps or on your computer, you can do it the sort of like old traditional way, where you just have a paper map and design it out from there. Lots of folks like to do that. It kind of adds to the adventure and then adds another skill set if you're trying to navigate in that sense. But you can also use things like Ride with GPS, or the next slide, which I'll show you, is Strava. And so both of those are really great apps where you can basically draw on the map and pre-create your routes, and it'll tell you things like all these aspects: your distance, elevation, ride type. And you can't see it here on the Ride with GPS though. Let's see if we can go back. Oop. There we go. This has a nice elevation profile, and then also these lines tell you what's dirt and what's paved, and so that's kind of neat. And Strava does that too, although I didn't really show it on this portion. And so that's really helpful because it'll also show you it'll show you paved road, dirt road, and then also trails, and it'll navigate. So it'll go like something like class 4 roads will show up as trails, or mountain bike trails. So I think these 2 apps are really, really great. I use them for everyday rides and then also for a lot of bike packing creation. The cool thing about Strava is they have a thing called heat maps, and so you can go on there and there are little blue lines that basically show you where people have ridden before. So wherever anyone has recorded a ride with Strava, it shows up on these blue lines. So you can be like, there isn't a road there, but I see a line there, and so then that's where you can do a little exploration and find something kind of cool in the woods, and sometimes get very lost very close to the road. And then just a general packing list here. So these are the basics of what you might start with when you're getting ready. Things like food, shelter, clothing, things for your bike, and then what I call extras. I did bring a few things in the bags, the kind of what I would carry, but these are some basic things here. And you can really get as creative as you want. So depending on what type of bike packing trip you're doing, you could carry a steak dinner if you want, or you could carry like little tuna fish packets. That's, you know, whatever works. Those like army provisions are pretty popular sometimes. Dehydrated foods, things like that. Yeah, and then yeah, I like to carry a lot of food. Usually I have a whole entire bag just for food. I mean, I do that even on my daily things. Like this is sometimes how I just commute to work with an entire pannier just
Very true.
lunch and snacks. And so for a camping trip, you definitely want an entire bag full of food. And then some snacks in here too. And then the basics, you know, you want your tent or your hammock, depending on how you like to sleep. Sleeping bag, tarp. And those are sort of like, if you've been camping, this is where it kind of mixes all together. It's, you know, whatever you would normally take camping, you try to take that, fit it all in bags, and probably end up taking a little less than you take camping because it's heavy. and you feel it on the bike. And then your clothing, so bike clothes, I like to take a change of clothes to wear while I'm just camping. Sometimes when you get there, we'll park and then go out for a hike or go for a swim or some other fun activity, which we will do when we're at Ricker Pond. You know, we'll be there for 2 overnights, and so there's the pond. You can do lots of swimming, and there's so much different biking up there and a lot of nice hiking routes as well. So canoeing, lots of fun things to do. And then kind of a basic bike gear list, things like spare tubes, flat kit, your tools. Sometimes people will bring things. If you're going on a really long trip, you might bring like an extra derailleur hanger or some cables or a chain link, at least, something like that. So with the longer trips, you end up needing to be a little bit more prepared, self-sustaining, where you can kind of do some basic bike repair stuff. Overnight is not so bad because then, you know, you can always bail out. You're a lot closer. But it's a good idea to know how to change a flat, fix a flat. It's kind of that would be most likely to come up. And then your bags, electronics. If you bring things like your cell phone, you might want to have a battery pack, or for your lights. A lot of times you have at least the tail light for when you're in traffic, and then the front lights if you're going to do any night riding type stuff. And then extras like games, books, anything like that. However you entertain yourself. I just read a whole book about a guy that traveled from Washington down to the very bottom of South America, and he watched Netflix like most nights in his tent, which is hilarious, and like I guess something you could do if you wanted to do that while you're traveling through South America. But it was a good book. It was also he's a gay man from the South, and so it was like this huge story about not only his bikepacking trip, but also his just like balancing those things like his Christianity and everything else with his queerness. And so it was a really good book. Yeah, so that is the slide piece of it that I have. And so basically I just wanted to have there we go. Do that part just to kind of like put it all out there for everyone, and we'll go over, now we can like show and tell the bikes a little bit, and everyone can ask questions about anything that comes up for you at all at any point. Yeah, so I'll turn it over to some presenters here. We have Danielle and Hannah, who have both done more bike packing than I have. They have quite good stories.
So I'm Danielle. Like Chris said, I'm a board member for Vermont Bikepackers. So, and I really like overnighter trips. I don't have a lot of time off, so overnighter trips are kind of like my jam. And I like it because usually I can just leave from home, which is always really nice to be able to do. So this is kind of my, like, what I would bring pretty much on an overnight or a week-long trip. That's kind of like the nice thing about bikepacking. Like, if I was on a week-long trip, you might find that this might be a little bit bigger. This is like where all my clothes are at. So I usually have like an extra pair of like pants for camping, which is really nice. Sometimes I'll be very posh and bring like a cotton shirt. That feels really nice. Or usually what I'll do is what I'm gonna wear the next day is what I wear at camp because it's like less stinky and stuff like that. So that's what I have everything here. So I have like a whole like change of clothes, a puffy jacket, camp socks, which is really nice to have. I usually have a little bit of a thicker pair of camp socks. For this bag, let's see, this is my tent. So I have my tent in here, and like all of my tent poles typically fit all in here. Like I have all my tools, so like all of my like stuff I really need. I have Raynaud's, so I always have toe warmers. Sometimes at night my toes get very, very cold. I have like all my tools. Zip ties are your friends. I've had to zip tie many things. So are lots of belay straps. You can never have too many of these. But yeah, like what Chris was saying, like you want to have some basic tools with you. If I ever like want to go into a store, I have my little handy dandy device there to hopefully not have people steal my stuff. It's like my shelter. But yeah, I have like my tent poles and my stakes in here. So this is kind of like not really stuff that I like super need to get into. It's kind of nice. Kind of keep that all clean and stuff like that. I have all my snacks in here, which that was from a ride the other day. I have my EpiPen, because I might need that if I go into a bunch of movies. If I'm riding by myself, I've had some medical things the other year, so I splurged on a spot device, which is actually really nice to have. Just kind of like, it's expensive, but it's kind of one of those nice things when you're traveling solo to have. And I got like, they have much smaller ones. I got the one where I can like write a message. Because in Vermont, you don't have a lot of cell phone service, and I just didn't know what was gonna happen. So I got myself one of those, and like for people who do like longer events, you can actually track people on that. So they have like track leaders, which is like the dot stalking. So that's kind of what one of those devices are. I have my front bag, which kind of has like my go-to stuff, like my spoon, which is very important for my siestas in the afternoon. I'm one of those people where I'll usually wake up early in the morning to get going, and I'll have like a nice siesta midday, put my legs up, sometimes take off my chamois, let my skin breathe and all that kind of stuff. But like I'll have like my morning vest, like I'll have like a bright yellow vest, which is really nice. One thing that I love having, especially come summer, is just like these armbands that you can put on to protect your skin. Especially like on multi-day trips, it's kind of nice to not just have layers and layers of sunscreen on you. So I started using those, which is lovely. I always have this now with me, like a nice little buff to mainly keep sand and dust off of myself, or just like an extra layer of protection from the sun. Or sometimes if it's really hot, I'll like dunk this in water, and, like put it around my neck. That feels really good. I learned that in the desert. Yeah, it's like my little go-to stuff. Now, here in Vermont, I think one of the best things to have, which you probably won't need in September, but this time of the year, I'll have like my little bug net that I'll have for my head, for like if I'm cooking at night. So I have always one of these handy dandy with me. So that's kind of like my like necessary stuff. Well, this is kind of like a luxury item, but it's very small and packs up very small. I highly recommend one for summer. As silly as it looks, it makes a huge difference. And then in this other bag that I have here, which is a little bit bigger than my other ones, kind of just give you a quick rundown. Kind of what Chris's lists were of like all of the things that you kind of need to have camping. And I've kind of learned over time, being especially here in Vermont, like what I want to have like readily available, and it's usually my rain jacket. and I make sure to not have this with my clothes. So like I'll have like my rain gear, and like a lot of times I don't wear my rain pants, but I double my rain pants as like a warm layer at night at camp, which is nice. And this also kind of like, it kind of will keep bugs away too, because I can't really get through this. So, and so one thing I've learned is I don't really like rain pants all the way down, because they'll get cut in your chain. So this is like a really old pair that like I cut off here, so that it doesn't get caught up in my chain. So that was nice. Had these for a long time, and I was like, I think I can handle doing that. This is my tiny little water filter. Being here in Vermont, it's really nice that we have a lot of water. But yeah, just like a nice little water filter. This is like my really small water reservoir, which kind of takes even longer. They have bigger ones. But yeah, I have to like refill this, and essentially this just like pops up on here, and I'll put it like straight into my water bottle. So I just kind of squeeze that down, and that's really nice to have. That way you don't have to carry as much water. But if you're going to like other places, you might want to bring a little bit more water with you. That's actually why I have this here too. Usually I have like a Nalgene bottle, and I'll use these belay straps to kind of strap that in there. I have like my toiletries, a little first aid kit with lots of Benadryl, because I'm super allergic to things, and some Band-Aids and all that good stuff. And then the important stuff, which is food. So I'll have like my Annies, and I really like these bags because you can reuse them. So I love using these, and they're super durable. And I'll have my morning coffee, which I've been doing like mushroom coffee because it's easy. I kind of just do easy things, and I have my little stove here. And I have these things on it. Like I kind of, because these things are a little bit pointy, so I kind of just like jimmy rig these things on there so it doesn't poke through my bag. And then my fuel is in here, so they have like different sizes, but this is one of the smaller ones that I have. So that's that bag, and that's, you know, definitely some of the more important things. And that'd probably be like the max amount of stuff that I bring. I try to get as much food. We're pretty lucky here in Vermont, like really good general stores, a lot of water, like nearby roads and streams. So I try not to bring overly too much. I try to get food from stores when I can, which isn't always possible. But like what Chris was saying, like a lot of the route planning I do is like around like food or areas of interest. But a lot of like my gravel rides or a lot of my bike packing rides, I like try to plan it around like a really good general store that I've been wanting to try, or just something really good in the area. So that is pretty much what I would bring for most trips. This in the front is my sleeping bag, and again, this is my tent. So this is like my one person tent, which is a little bit bulky. So if you're going with another person, usually you can like split it up, like conquer and divide. And I use these types of sleeping pads. I've used the blow-up ones, and I've gotten holes in them, and then I wake up to no comfort. Done that in winter, which is really cold and not fun. And I like using those because then I can like stretch like during the day, or like during my siesta, I can just like put it out, and like it gets a little bit wet, but it doesn't like absorb wet, which is nice. And they even have like little covers that you can put on those too. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I would bring on a trip. And again, it's pretty similar on an overnight compared to like a multi-day trip. So you might just bring like an extra pair of like chamois or shorts or whatever, and then kind of just like wash it during the day. And what I usually do is like put it on the front to like dry it out. That works pretty well. Yeah, and I just love overnight trips. It's like the most accessible thing. I'm a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 person, so it's kind of what I've been doing. I've done like some like week-long trips, which is really fun, but I just don't have time to do more than that. So, and my favorite place is Groton. I absolutely love it. It's so pretty there. So, and I've been cycling for like ever. I started doing road like road touring. Kind of has like more of like this like pannier type style. And then I had some like really close calls with cars. So then I was like, I want to do like the off-road stuff. And then I heard about bike packing and I was like, that sounds cool. So I like doing like the gnarly stuff, but I really just like doing rail trail things because you don't have to think, like no cars. It's just nice. Usually there's stores like along the way. So I do a lot of that stuff. So I live in Lindenville, so I'm really excited for the rail trail to finally get done. And I heard that they might turn into a state park eventually. And there'll be like little camping sites along the way. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I can't wait. So excited. So yeah, that's kind of my setup for the most part. There's probably a few things I didn't show you, but yeah, I usually have like camping and food in the front, and then my clothes in the back, because I don't really need to access that, because like taking all that apart kind of takes a little bit of time, but I try to have all like the easy to reach things and like easy to reach areas. Like I love like these little accessory bags, or like you could use like hip pack too, which is nice. I use a lot of fanny packs, and like they have the fanny packs where you can like get extra water in that. Like if I was doing something out west, I'd definitely have like a hip pack with that, because you need a lot of water out there. So yeah, it's kind of fun. It's like choose your own adventure and your own kind of setup. Like my first bike packing trip was on my road bike with an 85-liter backpack. So I've done a lot of
Sounds really top
different
heavy.
yeah, done a lot of different variations, and it was super fun. Like literally you can just use your, like I have like a 1993 steel bike with like a walled basket in the front, and just fill that up, and that works too. Like you can kind of just do whatever. Like this has been like 6 years of playing around with things, so it just works for me. I had a local bag maker make this little bag for me, which is really cool, so that could like fit there, because I couldn't find anything on the market where I could do that and have like a spot for my water bottle. So there's like a lot of cool like local bag makers that will kind of make things around the bike that you have, because things that are on the market won't, necessarily work. And like if anything went wrong with it, you could fix it, which is really cool. So yeah.
What do you think? What was your favorite bike packing trip ever?
Probably the so I made a route for bikepacking.com. Kind of like it was like a trip that I wanted to do, and they were like asking for overnighters, and I kind of wanted to contribute to the overnighter net, because I think a lot of people, when they think of bike packing, they think of like these big like epic trips, but for most people it's like something that you can do in your backyard. So I wanted to do something here in Vermont that was like for kind of like all abilities to do. So this one uses some of the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, and it uses Groton State Forest, and it used to go by Rainbow Suites, which is sadly not there anymore, which was so sad, because I like planned it so you could go there for breakfast in the morning and do like an early lunch, because again I plan everything around food mainly. That was like my first solo trip, and it was really pretty. It was fall. I had done like a wood stacking party at my geology emeritus professor from college up in the Northeast Kingdom, and then I started over in Peachum. I don't quite remember, but I remember I was like running late, so like I started in a different location, and then I got to Ricker Pond, and this was like after like the summer season, so there's like nobody there. So I could pick any spot I wanted, and it was amazing. It was a little scary when I was like falling asleep, because there was like a pack of coyotes like across the water that had just like played with something, but you just like heard all these like coyotes just like howling, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And then I woke up in the morning, there's like this beautiful like sunrise like over the lake, and that was really pretty. And then I got to go to Rainbow Suites, because that's when it used to be open. And then I like went up through Cabot, and then went to Bert's Apple Orchard and got, everything's food with me. So like got up there, because there's like this big hill climb that you have to go through Cabot. So like you go through the town of Cabot, where the like Cabot cheese factory is, and there's like that big hill that takes you out, and it's like really, really pretty up there, so it's nice to get donuts and apple cider when I get up there. And then there's like this very, very small section of Bailey Hazen route that I love there. It's like it's really pretty little section. And then you drop down into, not Peachum, I always think it's Danville, and you go to like Joe's Pond, and there's that whole thing. And it's nice because you kind of finish going down the rail trail into St. Johnsbury. So, and it was just fall, and it was quiet. It was really pretty, and it was like my first solo trip, so it just made it that much cooler. I had a little bit of cell phone service, so it made it a little bit better. Like, especially when I was at Ricker, when I heard the coyotes, I was like, oh my gosh. But I survived. And I was like, yes, and I survived, and you could see a really pretty sunrise. There's actually 2 other cyclists that were camping like 5 other campsites down, so I was like, okay, at least there's somebody here, because it was off season, so I was like, oh, that's a little scary. So that's probably my most favorite time bikepacking, but it's kind of like, I've had a lot of fun. I've had some type 2 fun where it wasn't necessarily fun when I was out there, but it was really fun after, like once I got into my dry tent, I was like, okay, that was fun. I will do that again. So yeah, I just feel lucky living here in Vermont. There's just so much quiet roads, and one thing that I've noticed when we were talking about this earlier is I have this like very, 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 very bright light on my front bike, which I actually use for like winter fat biking at night. I think I can get off, but yeah, like this thing is like massive, and it like I do like the strobe on it, and I've found that like a lot of cars and trucks are like a lot more receptive, and like I've had trucks like wave at me. They're like, thank you for trying to be seen. So that's why I have like this like bright yellow thing. And I meant to bring it, there's actually like these really cool like little reflective, like it's like not even a vest, it's kind of like this, and like it kind of goes like this and like this around you, so you could like wear it with like a t-shirt, and it just has like a little bit of yellow and like a lot of reflective, so if you're doing road stuff, it's like super nice. I like saw it on like Instagram, and I was like, I like messaged this person I don't even know, I was like, where did you get that? I was like, I need that. So I meant to bring that, but yeah, I always have something that tries to like make me seen, especially if I'm like in the middle of nowhere and it's hunting season. I try. But yeah, sorry, kind of went through a lot, so you probably have questions or.
How long, like many miles would you do, like for you, if you were just going out for a night?
Oh, like for a night, like
Yeah.
anywhere from like 10 to 30. Like I've done so many things, like especially when I lived in Waterbury, like we'd have like a little like get together where people from like Burlington would come, and Waterbury and Montpelier, and we'd kind of like pick like a in between area, like what Chris was saying. There's some like really nice like state lands or national forest lands where if you just get like off the road a little ways, like you can camp, and there's like some like unofficial like dispersed like camping areas where they're like people have been there before, so like sometimes there'll be like a little like fire pit and stuff like that. So there's like a lot of those like little places that like you might not know of, but like somebody else knows of it, and that's kind of how like you get to know those places. And like I live near like Little River, so I used to go to Little River. Oh, I love that, it's so nice. And again, I usually go there like permit, so like their permit season for the state parks is November 1st till March 31st. So I usually take advantage of like November before like a lot of the snow comes. So, because there's always like those like random like 60-degree days in November, which is like glorious. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm excited because where I am in Lindenville, there's like tons of things I haven't done yet, and it's like, you know, 20, 30 miles from the house. So like I've done like the long 100-mile days. Those are fun, but I like to take breaks. I like my siestas. I like to get food. It's kind of just like a nice, like, enjoyable. It's, you know, it's kind of like what you make out of it. Like, that's why I like it. Like, and I've done like routes where like I've had to get off my route and do something on the road, and that's fun too. Like, I've definitely like changed up my plans like halfway through. And that's kind of like the fun thing about it. Like, you can go anywhere with it. Like, and like I've done other things where I thought I would do more road, and then I was like, let's go this way. Like, this is like what Chris was saying with the heat maps. Like, you're like, oh, well, this looks like an option. Let's try this. So, or like if the weather's really bad, like I'll do something else. Like, and like I've done like the credit card tour. Like, I have packed up all of this and then ended up staying in hotels because it was just like so bad outside, and that's kind of fun too. So yeah, it's just, you know, you can just do whatever, and if you want to stay in the woods, you have your stuff, and if you want to stay in a hotel, you can dry all your stuff. Like, that's kind of what we did, just like dry everything out. Like, my feet got like soaked for 4 days, and I was just like, oh, I can't. Because I didn't have, like, I usually have like a pair of like sandals on the back too. Like, I'll usually like strap it on here, that way I have like something sandal wise to wear like at the camp, or like if it's super wet, I'll just put on sandals. That way like my feet just don't like be little puddles the entire time.
Is this like what you always, this with tire?
I love that with tire.
You do everything with that?
I mean, I've had, so my first bike came with like very similar width tires to that, which works great, but sometimes I'd be going big hill and just be like, oh, trudging. But yeah, I like this size, like the 2.25 is like a nice Vermont size, because you can like, being on the roads here, there's not really a shoulder, so like when cars push you off the road, you can like go into a shoulder and not be like, get like sucked in, like with my, because I used to be a road cyclist, so I'm like used to the little skinny tires, and like it would go into sand and just like I'd fall over. So it's kind of nice to have a little bit more stability underneath you, and these are like pretty knobby. I've used these on the mountain bike trails, like Kingdom Trails, just because I wanted to try. But it also rolls really nice, so like I was really shocked with these tires. Like, Lael Wilcox apparently like designed these tires, and I was like, all right, I guess I gotta try. I have like a bunch of other friends that have them. That have done like big, like we have a event here in Vermont called the Super 8, which does like 680 miles around the state, which is really cool. And I had some friends, I had like 3 friends last year that had used these tires, and they're like, oh, it did everything that I wanted it to do. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm sold. And yeah, I've been using them for the past year, and yeah, I really like them. I've like had a variety of different types of tires, so. And I have another bike that's kind of similar to this, but I'm gonna make it more into this type of bike so that I can do some cool mountain bike trips with it. Bring it out west, hopefully at some point, one of these days, and I can travel again. Yeah, like this bike kind of just does everything. It's great, and it was pink, so I said yes, please. And I have a theme. I've been trying to make things match as time goes on. So when I was a kid, I had everything purple and pink, and then when I started doing outdoorsy stuff, everything was like brown and black. So I was like, I need more color in my life. I was like, if there's an option for color, I'm gonna take it. So trying to brighten things up, and you like people can see you more, which is kind of nice.
I just got some sparkly pink handlebar tape from Chris for my birthday, so
that's awesome.
There's an option out there for you.
I like
It's very cool and very hard to wrap.
Yeah.
It's very hard to wrap, but it's very worth it. Yeah, I too like the color.
Taken some. Definitely need to rewrap these. And then no, I'm not fast. So people see these aero bars. I do this for comfort. I have like piriformis issues, which is like, it's like literally like deep into your butt. So sometimes it feels like I'm sitting on a softball, which is not comfortable. I do a lot more yoga now, which is helping that situation. But like if you do go into like long like day rides where you're on your bike for like 10 hours, it's really nice to just have another position. It takes like, because you kind of get into this position, so it takes a lot of pressure off your lower back. So that's why I have these. It's not because I'm fast. I am slow when I like being slow. So. But yeah, that's why I have these on here. And I've actually used it for a shelf for my shoes because I have nowhere else to put them. So I like strap my shoes onto this one day just to like not have them on other, because I can't put them anywhere else on my bike. So it also works as a shelf, I learned. So yeah. a MacGyver bike. It's great.
Mine are wider out, but I also have those bars for
Yeah.
a little bit of.
It
I
is.
haven't used them much for comfort, but shelving, yes.
Yeah.
Like I put things on there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's great.
My bike is actually my first bike was the same color as this bike that I have now. So it's like a full circle. I was like
cool.
6 and it was these exact blue and pink.
Yeah, mine is like very similar to that light blue. And my Surly was a light blue, and I was very sad when I sold my Surly. Because I just had too many bikes. And not enough money.
Yes. I know the feeling.
Anything else? Before Hannah can come up here? She's done the cool long stuff.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Come on up. We'll switch spots here.
Yeah, the problem. I'm excited to see your bike.
Hi everyone. I realize I don't know how much bike packing you all have done. Or have you done
I
any?
went one time.
Okay.
One time.
One time. Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
9 years ago.
Nice. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my bike and everything that's on it, but I do feel like it's a lot of information. And sometimes it's not that helpful to hear like all the things from everyone, but I think the best advice that I have about getting into bike packing, this is some advice that I read last summer. I was preparing to do the Great Divide mountain bike route, which I rode from the Canadian border to the Mexican border. And I was reading all these articles because it's like one of the big rides that everyone talks about. It's like kind of a lifer ride. And I wanted to do it right. I wanted to have the right bike and I wanted to have the right gear, and I'd done a lot of bike packing, but I just wanted to make sure I knew all the things. So there's so much on the internet. And I came upon this one article that just said something like, shut up, get on your bike and ride. Doesn't matter what bike you have. It doesn't matter what gear you have. None of us started on like fancy, beautiful carbon bikes with all the waterproof gear. Like we all started I started bike packing, I think 15 years ago was my first bike packing trip. And I was on a junky road bike with a big heavy backpack and maybe some panniers, which are great. But I don't ride with panniers anymore, even on roads personally, but nothing was waterproofed, and it hurt my back and everything, and I had way too much food, but I had a great time. And I think that that's like a big thing. I think in any outdoor sport it can get overwhelming to think about like, oh, like this bag is over $100 and this bag's, and like I made this bag and I made these bags, but if you don't know how to do that, it's expensive, and the bike is expensive. But really you can go out on any bike and have a good time and go anywhere, and I think that's really important with bike packing, at least for me, and that's what keeps me coming back, because I'm not the fastest person, and I can't go the furthest distance, and I don't have all the money to get the most like tight and lightest gear, but I still have a great time on my bike. Just quickly, this is my bike. I've had a handful of different bike packing bikes. This is the one that I had Vermont Bicycle Shop built for me last summer so I could do the Great Divide mountain bike route. It's a hardtail, so it has front suspension. These two bikes don't have a suspension fork or any other shocks. I really like having that for when I'm doing a mix of trail and road, and the Great Divide was a good bit of trail. But my front bag, it's 2 parts. It's from Rebel 8 Designs, and I really like the bags they make. And I've, again, been through different iterations, but this is a waterproof bag that comes out of this harness. And in here lives my sleeping bag, and then all of my extra clothing. And sometimes food goes in there too after a food resupply. This is my bum bag. And this is where I have my sleeping pad. I use an inflatable sleeping pad. I've had the same one for 11 or 12 years, never
Wow.
gotten a hole.
That's
So-
amazing.
I know. But that's in there. Sometimes there's food in here. Sometimes things like my tube that I don't need access to ever, hopefully, goes in here. And then I have a little light on the back here to keep me safe. My frame bag, you want to have the majority of your weight in the center, just for balance. So things are in here are food. My stove goes in here. Usually repair gear. My bicycle pump's in here. Let's see what's in here right now. Oh, my headlamp's in there. Headlamp is one of the most essential pieces of gear, I think, for being out. I always end up riding later than I expect. A couple hours after sunset, I might still be riding, and so getting into camp and being able to set up camp. My water filter's in here. I guess I'll put this stuff down. My pump's in here. Love this pump. My water filter, I have the same water filter as Danielle. Lots of
Me too.
food in here. My repair kit. I try to keep things as light as possible, so I try to just have stuff that I can get rid of. Like, I don't have my repair kit in some fancy bag, like it just lives in this plastic bag. This is the rest of my water filter. And I tend to go for meals. So for bike packing, you can spend a ton of money, like I said, and buy the like $12, $14 meals. Or you can get instant oatmeal, bag of nuts. I tend to go with that stuff, like the grains and the dried fruit and nuts. This is my cooking setup. It's just a cup that I can cook in. I have my little stove in here, but I have a couple different stoves based on what kind of riding I'm doing, where I'm going. Bunch of snacks. Are you coffee drinkers? Love carrier roasting instant coffee. I like to have these because then you don't need a whole coffee setup, but I also bring tea. So those are nice to have. This you can also burn or recycle. And then things like for electrolytes, the bike shop here sells these. These are just nice for really hot days. So anyways, just try and pack as much in as possible. But I try and have the heavier stuff in here. And you can get these bags made locally. I made this one, but you can also buy just your generic one. There's
A
some
wall
here.
full of
Yeah.
bags.
And also you don't need a frame bag. It's just that there's all this space here. Maybe your water bottles go there. I tend to put my water bottles on the fork. I don't have both of them on here right now, but I usually have something like this on the fork, which has higher capacity. In terms of water, I've ridden with a backpack with water bottles in it. I also last summer got this what I'm calling a camel butt. But it's a hip bag, so you don't have anything on your back, which is really nice when you're riding all day and sweating. And it has a hose. And then you can also put important things in here that you don't want to lose, like chapstick, topo map as kind of a backup, stuff like that. So those are those 3 bags. And then I have my feed bags here, which are for like I'm riding and I'm hungry and I need snacks. I'll often put something like a mask in there that's essential. I usually have my multi-tool in here for quick repairs. What else is in here? Oh look, there's my multi-tool. Right now I just have this, I like to bring like a little wilderness medical guide, just in case, to help me figure stuff out. Then I have something like sunscreen. So that's nice to have, just easily accessible. I have my GPS unit here, which you don't need. Often a bike packing trip, I might just go on the roads that I know, or a trail that I know, but this can be helpful to have something like that. But I used a phone for many years, and most people have access to those around here. I always bring a battery pack so I can be charging devices on the go, especially phones suck up a lot. I have a really bright light as well that I got here at the bike shop, and that's great to have for that night riding. I feel like it's a yard sale. Lighters, tooth powder, my favorite thing ever.
Yep.
It's great
Tooth
for winter
powder.
trips.
Yeah, tell us more.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You can buy this at the co-op or at health food stores. I actually use this as my normal toothpaste every day.
Wow.
It's just like it's a natural alternative, but it's also doesn't make a big mess. It's just, sorry, Darren, make a little mess, but it's just a little
we
powder.
just
Sorry.
vacuumed.
But it's nice. Like I do a lot of winter expeditions as well, not on bikes but skiing. It doesn't freeze. Anyways, just nice to have something like a little bit less heavy. And then repair stuff, more masks. I love masks. COVID safety. So yeah, little things like that that are kind of essentials live up here for me. In general, for me for bike packing, I try to bring as little as possible. So I bring as little food as possible, but also knowing where the food is, doing the research ahead of time. And I always have backup, I try to have backup things like packets of peanut butter or coconut butter or those like high calorie bars, just in case, like hidden in all the crevices, because you never know when you're gonna be a little bit lost and super hangry. So I try and have that stuff. In terms of clothing, I pretty much don't bring underwear. I'll bring like one pair of underwear. I bring one pair of bike shorts. I don't bring pants. I bring just a pair of quick dry shorts and then long johns, like a thin long john that will keep bugs off, keep me warm. That way I cut down on an article of clothing there. I do bring one cotton shirt, because one cotton shirt's so great when you get into camp. I bring one bra, and that's like what I wear for swimming and what I wear on my body. Yeah, so I try to bring as little as possible, and over time I've learned what I need. But it's totally fine to bring more, and it just means that you have to carry more. So yeah. I think that's all I want to say. Are there any questions about my setup? I will say this isn't the setup that I use all the time. So sometimes in Vermont I go on bike packing trips where I'm on a bike that looks like that. And I do have the same kind of bag setup, but I don't have these chunky tires if I know I'm going to be more on just dirt roads.
What was your favorite ever bike packing trip?
Sure. You had such a nice answer, like really accessible answer. I really like, so I've bike packed back and forth across Vermont maybe like 4 or 5 times in southern Vermont, and that's super great. And I've also been to Ecuador bike packing twice. One of the times I did the Trans-Ecuador mountain bike route, which runs the length of Ecuador, and then I did the Great Divide last summer. And so I love that you can travel with bike packing, but I also love that you can just go out your back door. Favorite trip? I think it was really special to be in Ecuador. I had a relationship with that place and with communities there, and yeah, just to be able to visit people I loved and places I had been before, definitely centered around food and things that I wanted to see. But I also love, just bike packing in Vermont. So I don't know, no favorites. Should I show a couple images from here?
Yeah. So we
How
have
do I do
we have Hannah's Instagram up from her bike packing trip. It's all with the
this
computer. Yep. There you go.
So I'll just show a couple quick images. This was the trip I did last summer, and we had an Instagram because we were raising money for Pride Rides and for 2 other organizations that were centered around bringing access to cycling, because for me, biking is the most freeing and empowering thing I've ever done in my life, and just thinking about how inaccessible it can be for a lot of different folks. So let's see, is there a nice image somewhere? Beautiful starry nights. This was during a 135 mile day across what's called the Great Divide Basin. just riding through the night. So that was a really beautiful day. Let's see what else. Pride rides. Here's me on a bike. Really beautiful. This was in Wyoming, I think. So just a lot of beautiful places the bike can take you. Any other nice images? I don't know. I haven't looked at these pictures in a long time.
How long did that trip take, Hannah?
This trip, it ended up being 40 days of riding. These pictures aren't really doing anything justice, but you know how it is. The world is beautiful anywhere you go. So that was Montana in the beginning of our trip. It took 40 days. I think there were maybe, I don't remember how many rest days, but just a handful. I like to go far if I can. So our days were anywhere from maybe 40 miles to our biggest day was 135 miles. But when I was in Ecuador, we had days that were 5 miles because that's how far you go when you're in the middle of the mountains.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Questions, comments, thoughts?
I guess my question for both of you is like, how do you stay comfortable? Like really, it's something like I really like wonder about. Sometimes I'm not even comfortable on my bike, just riding for like 10 miles. Sometimes.
I think it's something you figure out over time.
Yeah.
For me, comfort comes from figuring out the clothing that I need to wear to be comfortable. For me, comfort has come from, since the way my body works, like if I don't wipe after I pee, this is too much to say on if I don't wipe after I pee, then I can get irritated, and so I need to have something for wiping. So I bring toilet paper, and some people have I forget what the rags are called, but
The cool cloth.
yeah. So figuring out a way that I'm not gonna get irritated, and I'm sitting all day and sweating, and I have to go pee, and then if things get making sure that you're not gonna get an infection, that's super important for me. So figuring out this whole system, for my body has been important for comfort. Things like the instant coffee that is just so delicious every morning brings me so much emotional comfort. My sleeping bag, I always use a sleeping bag liner so that at the end of the hot, sweaty day where I'm covered in sunscreen, I'm not touching the synthetic fabric. I have this other kind of material around. So it's just little things like that, just riding and figuring out what are the little things you need to feel comfortable, because it is uncomfortable to be out in the elements all day, to sleep in a tent, but it's also so amazing and so empowering, and for me, like I said, so freeing. I've had a lot of injuries and surgeries, and yet I can still ride my bike, and so it's all worth it to me so long as I can figure out. I think that's such a great question. The one cotton shirt brings me all the joy.
Clearly you both said it.
But it comes with some hardship in figuring out, going through the rainstorms where you're totally soaked and everything's wet and you're thinking this is the worst thing ever.
So would you not want to wear a cotton shirt if you were getting dressed to go do this? You
Right.
don't want to wear.
Something like
Yeah.
wool or something that's gonna dry quickly. At least in this
Yeah.
climate.
Like synthetic stuff or wool, yeah, because cotton it just gets drenched with your sweat or whatever, and then it just doesn't dry very well.
Right.
And it's heavy and uncomfortable
Yeah.
generally. And it stinks a lot faster. So if you're doing multi-day stuff, merino wool is the best kind because it doesn't hold that bacterial scent as bad.
Yeah. Wool
Not
socks.
that the bears care if you smell bad, but wool socks, yeah.
Wool socks, wool underwear, things like that.
I feel like I don't know what wool feels like.
Ooh, I can show you.
We can.
I can show you. I'll trade with you for a second.
Do you mind being videotaped?
That's fine.
I brought a huge, super thick wool sweater that the one time I went with Chris. I brought so much stuff and it was so bulky and kind of not super comfortable. But it was
There's like a bunch of different types of wool, right? And,
Yeah.
and you know, you like think of wool. Sometimes you might think of those super thick wool socks.
Yeah, exactly.
These are like some sort of blend of that. But this, like for jerseys and clothing, your wool underwear or wool bike socks, they're gonna feel like this. And so it's
wool.
super thin. And the cool thing about merino
That's
wool
awesome.
and those sorts of blends is that it works not only to keep you warm, but also kind of to keep you cooler in the heat because it wicks your
Yeah.
sweat constantly. So something like this is amazing. And you know, with the bike jerseys, you get the pockets in the back, so you have a little more room. But yeah, lightweight, but packs a punch in like keeping you warm and dry. So
But at the same time, you don't need to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars
Right.
on the clothing.
yes,
You can get any old, $2 thrift store synthetic shirt and you'll be fine. Or I wear cotton a lot bike packing, but I know that I have, like, in the event of it's really cold or I've gotten really wet, I have somewhere in a waterproof spot, I have something that I know is going to keep me from hypothermia.
yeah. And you can often find wool stuff at like gear places that have used gear, like Outdoor Gear Exchange or REI has like a used thing, or even at a thrift store. Like literally, I found so many wool things or like performance clothing at thrift stores for like $2. I just went and got like 3 pairs of
Yeah.
super expensive shorts and pants that I will cut into shorts for $6 a piece, and they're like $60 pants. So there are some really thrifty things that you can do. A jersey like this does cost $160, so it's definitely, it's like an investment in a creature comfort and something that will work performance wise, but it's definitely like a steep investment.
That one in particular is very nice.
It is very nice. Yes.
Whoever
And
designed that did an exceptional job.
Darren designed that, and there's a lot of like little key features in there, just little designs on the front and the back, hidden things that are pretty fun.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to like keep up with you on this trip,
Mhm.
what would the expectation be for like mileage and?
Right. So this trip is beginner basic. So we like I said, we go slow. The distance between here and Groton is between the bike shop and Groton is like 25 miles. I'm pretty sure. I would have to like calculate it out, and I'll post all those details as far as like the route and everything. I will make on Strava and post up so that everybody can see your elevation, the type of road, the mileage, and all of that. We plan to do it in one day as far as like get out there to the actual Ricker Pond. 15 of those miles are rail trail. So if you parked in Plainfield at the parking area, that's 15 miles from the parking lot to Ricker Pond. And it's a flat, relatively flat, like railroad bed, flat grade. And we take our time. There's a lot of really nice spots along the way, little ponds and fun other routes. But yeah, it's all inclusive. We just want to be out there with people and sort of get new people into it, and certainly it's friendly for that. So you wouldn't have to worry about keeping up per se.
It's usually no drop situation
Right.
because everyone here is excited about riding with more people.
Yeah.
And when we want to ride over 100 miles, we will go on our own or with our 100-mile friends. But I think, yeah, most folks just want to get people out.
That's good.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of gear. Your gear closet.
Yeah, so Pride Rides does have a growing gear closet. Mostly right now it consists of things that I've collected over the years and put on different bikes. So I haven't shown my bikes yet, but I have that one over there with the panniers. So that's one style of setup that I've used in the past, where you just have 2 bags in the back on a rack. And then I have some sort of bags on the front. And for this particular trip, I don't really know which bike I'll take yet, but that's one option. It is the most narrow of tires that I would pretty much ever want to use on any sort of bikepacking trip, just because those are like basically road-sized tires, and Like Danielle said, if you get in the sand or in the side, it's not great. And on the rail trail, there is some sand. Pride Rides also has bikes available, so we have a fleet of fat bikes and a couple of new mountain bikes that we just got on. They're hardtails like this, and those will be available for people to use if you like don't have a bike that you feel like is going to be up to the task. So we'll have that in that gear. Some other bike options. So we've looked at the hardtail. We've got my gravel road bike. We've got this adventure gravel bike, is what I would call it. And then you can the fat bikes. Gigantic tires. They're a little slow on uphill climbs and stuff like that, but they are very sturdy and a lot of fun. Right now I haven't even changed mine out. These are studded tires, so you can take those in the winter. I will swap those over for any summer riding, but that's why when I started doing the bike fleet for Pride Rides, I did fat bikes because it's the most, you could just do the most with one bike, and so I could use them for all our winter rides, and then bike packing good for that, and then mountain biking too. So these are just some other setups. You got the panniers, and this one like Danielle and Hannah's bikes have bags on the front, a fun pizza bag.
Would you say that riding the fat bike would require more or less effort to go the same distance in elevation?
So a little, it depends a little bit on the surface. So if you're on dirt, I would say it's pretty even across the, I guess if you're trying to cruise really fast, like make good time, something like that is going to be faster. But when you're all kind of slow rolling, the difference between the two would feel pretty similar. And some of that comes down to the gearing on it. So not necessarily the tires, but just what your gear range is. Pretty much all of these bikes and all of the Pride Ride fleet bikes are set up what you call one by. So you've got one gear in the front and a lot in the back, usually somewhere between 10 and 12. In that range with this big disc and this littler gear in the front, it makes it climbing really easy, especially when you're loaded down with 80 pounds of gear. Sometimes it's just like a lot, but you can just kind of chug away at it. Yeah. And then there's also some people have a full suspension bike, and this is Hannah's other bike, and
One of
the other bikes, yes, and I have a similar one to this, so you can put the same bags on those, but that one you can get really rowdy on because you have the both front and rear suspension, and so then you get a little bit further into single track or mountain biking.
But you also can't carry as much gear
Right,
because of
especially if you're small.
the geometry of the bike, especially if you're small like us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That frame is so small if you see the triangle compared to Danielle's.
There's
So
no room. Yeah, it might be that medium. I'm a little bit more real estate to play with.
oh, I have one. Well, maybe it's not so important.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna show that bag. There's just all kinds of bags. There's so many great bags, and you just throw whatever on there, and backpack, fancy frame bags, doesn't really matter.
Maybe
Just
for, like,
figure it out.
A sleeping bag or like whatever, just like if it's not raining, just like strap it on.
Strap it on.
Yeah,
Like
put it
when
right onto
when I
the
went
rack.
with you, it was just like
So
everything was like
on
on
here,
the outside of the bike. I
underneath the
remember.
bags is just a metal rack, and so you can just put things on there. This is the biggest thing I carry. It's my pillow. It's the bulkiest thing that I carry. Everything else I've accumulated over time, gear that is lightweight and small, and ideal, but not necessary. So my bulky pillow, and I just strap it on top. When I first started bike packing, the very first trip I ever went on was with the bike shop, and it was when I first started hanging out here, and Darren and a group of other people, we all went out into the Groton Wilderness to like Hardwood Mountain, called Hardwood Mountain, and it's off of the rail trail. And it's a pretty adventurous little route, and I went on a fat bike that I had borrowed from the shop. I didn't have any gear, but there was a rack on there, and on the top I just strapped a 2.5 gallon yogurt container, and it was great because that's waterproof, and it fit a lot of my stuff in there, and I had a very bulky like Walmart sleeping bag that I had at the time, and just like all of my stuff packed in there, and then whatever didn't fit in there I just strapped to the outside with carabiners or like tied it with 550 cord. And during the trip, like everybody would laugh good natured because
we'd be like going over bumps, and I would just be like, bing, there goes something. I'd be like, there's my cook set. Oh, there goes my mug. Oh, I just dropped my phone. You know, like all sorts of things. Like my bag would be open, and it was kind of a mess for a while. You know, and over time I've dialed that down. Yeah, even today, Darren, when we were getting set up, he's like, "Where's your yogurt container?" And I'm like, "That's fine, that's good." But yeah, just so many different options, and really just about getting out there on the bike and then getting to some beautiful places and spending quality time in the woods. Yeah. I probably won't break down my bike because you've seen a lot of the same stuff, but you're free to like look around, pop through there, look at what we carry, ask any questions about that. For anyone viewing the recording, you won't be able to see that part, but most of the time my stuff is here at the shop. All the Pride Ride stuff is here at the shop, and so you can stop in the Vermont Bicycle Shop, and it'll be me and Darren, and you can just feel free to see any of the gear that's available, look at the bikes, try them out, anything like that. And I'll post the Bikepacking 101 as well. Yeah, but unless you all have anything else, I think we'll end it there, and then you can just look around and ask questions as we go.
Are the other things you're doing going to be Bikepacking 101, just like a repeat of them? Or is it going to be like other content stuff?
To be honest, I don't know. It's in flux. This is the first time we've ever done the bikepacking thing, so I'm still kind of like building it as we go. I'm hopeful to do another one for anyone who couldn't make this one and didn't get quite enough from the viewing. We might add some more people. I know that some people from Bikepacking Vermont have also expressed interest in helping out and showing some stuff. And there are some folks from there who are doing some other beginner bikepacking trips also through like catamount trails and stuff like that. So there's options to get more of this outside of just Pride Rides, and they're really lovely people as well.
And we also have a gear share that we're starting.
Yes, that's right.
So
And
there'll
there
be additional
second gear
gear.
share.
If you guys need to fill in some gaps for September, there should be lots of gear
So much
available.
stuff. It's really great because the gear, like Hannah said, is just so steep. It's very expensive to add on at $150 or so per bag, you know, over time. And then the gear to go in it, right? Like the tent, or I sleep with a hammock unless Caroline comes with me, and then we share a 2-person tent. But I love a good hammock swing. It's like being rocked to sleep like a baby. It's very nice. Yeah. All right. Let's end that.